Georgiadze from Georgia. Thank you for the very interesting session about clustering of smallholder farmers. This is very interesting issue for our country as well, because at present 99% of Georgian agriculture is represented by small farmers, and we work with association them in groups, informal or formal. Now there is a new tendency from the government to support cooperation, but often it does not have, in my opinion, very healthy directions, because it is kind of forced cooperation. At present, we work in different value chains, and one of the value chain is hazelnut, which became #1 commodity at present in Georgia. And there are many problems associated with clustering farmers around this commodity. And one of the main problems, not only in this value chain, also in other value chain, is that during Soviet past, when farmers were actually lost their farming practices and were also compulsorily united in Soviet big farms and kolkhozes and sovkhozes, they lost their ability of feeling themselves as farmer. This is first, and the second, they have mistrust to such kind of clustering. And this is main challenge for us. We work along the value chain, which includes the same principles, actually, that you described. But you mentioned in your presentation that, which was a very big interest of me, that for the most important for clustering is to create enabling environment. And could you just shortly describe what you mean under that? What directions, what segments, or which are main principles? Thank you.
All right. If I may respond quickly. If, let's say, because it's a new methodology we have been using. If, let's say, we go into an area, and in that area you have roots crop farmers. When we sit down to talk with them, what we do beforehand, we look at what are some of the issues, what are some of the obstacles, what are some of the gaps. So when we reach to that meeting, we would be presenting to these farmers, these are some of the opportunities that exist, what is required to access these opportunities by working together. So what you're doing, you're putting on the table issues that are clear and straightforward to show them that if you cluster together, if you work together in these areas, these are the advantages. So what we do in that situation is not only create an enabling environment, but you have to present the facts to them so that they can see. We find that somebody talk about, like, in the case of the Caribbean, our farmers are very individualistic. That's why one of the things in our debate at the group level, we need to look at, while we agree that clustering, bringing farmers together is important, we must also understand the socio-cultural, political conditions that varies from country to country. Because in our situation in the Caribbean, farmers are very individualistic and they don't like to be told what to do. So when you present them with a scenario or you present a case to them, you have to put it in such a way that they feel comfortable, that it is their thought, it is their thing. It is not you telling them what to do. So that is how we do it in terms of creating that enabling environment. And no matter how difficult farmers are, we have ways of dealing with it, because what you do, you find the issues that everybody can agree on. Even when we started the Caribbean Farmers Network in the Caribbean country, the repetition and the norm we met is that the Caribbean can unite Barbados, the different islands are different groups, and they can't work together. But we, as a farmers network, bringing the farmers together, found one issue to revolve around. And after that, over the next decade, as we develop the confidence and trust in each other, other issues come out that we start to work again. Now, we're on the branch of working on one of the most difficult issues, joint marketing, okay, within and outside of the Caribbean. So I won't say it's very, to me it's not difficult. It is just require a lot of patience and understanding. And sometimes we're trained to get answers quickly. But in the development field sometimes it is better that you allow the answer and the solution to come from the people. Because once it comes from them, it becomes more sustainable in the long run than if we impose it. That's from my experience.
Thank you very much. Especially, I think what is at present stage in our mistake, I already can recognize that we were mostly working with leader farmers, and we have to go working with whole group together. Thank you.
And sometimes the person who has the most mouth in the group is not necessarily the leader. Always remember that. That's why it requires patience and understanding. Eh?
Thank you.
All right. Any other thing before we move into? Is Ajit here? One of the presenter, Ajit. Okay, he's not here. So, any other burning clarification before we move into presentation number 3? Yeah? Who is it? Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Yeah.
Is it on? Yeah. So here in South Africa, we also encourage clustering. In formal clustering, we call them farmer organizations, registered bodies or entities that then get loans of various natures from banks, financial institutions. And we are now facing the challenge where the financial institutions are struggling to get their money back. So they took a big risk, and now the requirements are becoming more stringent, which means the loans are getting less. And the farmers as well is going digressing into becoming individualized again based on the requirements of the new requirements of the financial institution. So it's a catch-22 situation. While as government and government entities, we're encouraging clustering for economic competitiveness. And now we're in that space where you almost have to look at each case on its own merit.
If I put a thought-provoking thing, because working in the field is very exciting when I hear these things. When we had a situation where we had an opportunity to market a commodity named toro. And when we brought all the export around the table, they say the farmers need loan. If they don't have access to credit, they can't produce it. And I was of the opinion that that was the symptoms of the problem, but the root cause of the problem was sustainable, profitable market. When we were able to demonstrate sustainable, profitable market where the farmer made 100% increase in price by cleaning up the value chain and straightening the line to the consumer, the production of toro increased by 500% without any loans from government, from any commercial bank. Don't ask me where farmers get the money to produce it. But as long as you were able to show them that they were getting a profitable, they were making profit, and they could see it because you're making good money, they were smiling all the way to the bank, they found ways of financing their operation and expanding. So sometime in looking at financing for farmers, we must not just look at the traditional financing, but sometimes look at the innovative financial mechanism that exists within the system. And that sometimes is what we miss, especially those of us, those people who work at the bureaucratic level, not understanding. And sometimes when you go in and you dump financing on farmers, you won't get it back because they probably never need it in the first place. So that is one of the areas that also that we had to look at. And in group discussion, those are the kind of issues that I want you to bring out. All right? So before I move to the second presentation, let us say that it is clear that everybody agree that clustering, grouping small farmers into economies of scale is important. However, the methodology would range from country to country. So in a group discussion now, that would be the issue that we would discuss in order to come up with some key points as to how we move forward in terms of bringing this into the research agenda and the development agenda. Let me now ask our third presenter, Naledi, to present on the innovative technique for farmers to access market. Over to you.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Naledi Mahoe from Braston Enterprises. I'm over here. I'm taking advantage of what Jethro said earlier on about the whole setting being informal, for us to really interface with each other at an informal level, leaving titles outside of the room. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to talk to you about innovative techniques for creating access to markets for farmers. Our organization focuses on merging agriculture and mobile communications technologies. We put it this way: we plant the technological seed in the heart of farmers. What we have found is that in Botswana, the rural populations and disadvantaged communities have difficulties with access to information, access to markets, and access to communication, in the sense that they don't have a platform where they can actually communicate with each other in the terms of a mobile community where they can actually offer advice to each other and interact with each other and chat with each other. And when we saw these problems, we thought, how do we get farmers to actually see that they are business persons that need to be involved in marketing themselves? How do we create a social networking platform for these farmers? And how do we use mobile technologies in order to help these farmers? And how do we do this in a way that, in a cost-effective way, with resources that are available to them? And we thought about the mobile phone. Every farmer in Botswana has a mobile phone. We have over 100% mobile penetration. It's a resource that is readily available for every single farmer. So when we saw this, we realized that there is a lot of opportunity to use the mobile communication platform as a way of creating access to markets for farmers and disseminating information for them. This became the catalyst for our solution. It's called M-Agri, which is mobile agriculture. M-Agri is a USSD-based mobile application, meaning that it's not downloadable. You simply dial a short code to access the application. Any farmer from anywhere can actually use this application. It allows farmers to chat and create networks, and they can actually also have group chat where they can interact with each other, offer each other advice, and communicate with each other. It also allows them to have access to markets. So a farmer can set up a business profile on the app, and they can also set up a mobile store. So if I'm selling maize, I can have maize as one of my products and on part of my my mobile store. And if another farmer wants to buy maize from me, when they enter maize in the search box, they'll have my name pop up or other farmers that are supplying maize, and then we can network from then on. So it creates that marketplace for farmers. It also provides advisory services for farmers, so they have access to agri tips and information that is relevant to the kind of farming that they're into. And it also allows merchants and governments to disseminate information to these farmers. The app also allows farmers to email and Wikipedia search as well. we've found that we've received great reception from farmers. We have about over 60,000 farmers using the platform, and we've actually partnered with bodies such as the Local Enterprise Authority to disseminate information to the partners that are under their spheres, farmers that are under their spheres of influence. And it has helped them immensely in disseminating information. So I used this as a case study to basically paint a scenario in your mind to show you that there is opportunity for ICT in agriculture, and there needs to be innovative technologies that can actually level the playing field for farmers in Africa or anywhere else in the world. Thank you.
All right, the second presenter would be Robin. 10 minutes maximum. Okay. I think Robin would direct us to his slides, right? Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon. I think some of the discussion we've had and the presentations earlier made my work a little bit easier, so I'll go through a little bit faster. And really the topic of my presentation is how do we ensure linkages across the value chain to enable sustainable business model. Now I'm going to present this using an example of the partnership that we are involved in, particularly in the bean work, and illustrate some of the approaches that we are trying to use. So briefly, I'll make a mention about the partnership, and then which is really a research and development partnership, which we believe is linked with the value chain and the contribution of research in some of the sustainable value chain. Now, the partnership that I'm talking about is a research partnership in beans. We call Pan-African Bean Research Alliance, which really consists of a consortium of 3 networks: East and Southern Africa, East and Central Africa, Southern Africa, and West Africa. And within that, we have the participation and contribution of development agencies, and where CGIAR facilitates that partnership. The goal of that is really contributing in improving nutrition and health, food security, but as you see, they have underlying incomes which might be much more my bias this afternoon. Now, this partnership works in 30 countries in those regions that I've mentioned: East and Central Africa, Southern Africa, and some extent in Western Africa. And the reason I'm talking about this is I want to emphasize the word partnership and the linkages, from research to to market. And then in this partnership, I like to emphasize the point that the partnership, although made of national research institutions of those 30 countries, within that there are a lot of different types of partners, both primary and secondary, but which include the farm organizations and the private sector. It's a long partnership. It's 20 years now since that partnership was forged, and one of the key elements is emphasizing on division of labor and complementarity. And then it offers an entry point and also really involves some of the stakeholders, and also considers inclusiveness, which involve the different stakeholders, some of them which require some support and contribution. The other element of this partnership that is based on a common framework developed by the partners, which include both research, development, and farmer communities, and the private sector. So the point to emphasize there that the aspects, when we talk about markets, there is a contribution and a definition of the demand of some of the products that need to be developed from the bean collaborative research. And here it does show what different stages of research, but also if you see at the end we have the users, farmers, traders and consumers, depending on the need and the value and what they do to the products coming out of research. There is also an element of governance, where again the partnership has to be done because of the stakeholders involved, of agreeing how it operates, and where there is a definition of the leadership in the different networks, and where the partners themselves are active in governance and contribution and in decision making. Now, that has generated a number of results. Some of the products of these that have been developed, but the point I'd like to raise here is the manner the partnership has generated some of the results in a much faster, in some cases very efficient, and also in reaching a wider end users or regions, and also contributed impact, particularly in the product themselves, both geographically and institutional. Now, just to move more to the subject we have been talking about, and get down to one of the components of what is achieved through these partners is the value chain and the platform. In our case, we are going to use the bean corridors, which basically is the platform in which we operate. And the reason for this is because we see bean as an income or an economic opportunity in increasing income of the smallholder farmers, and because it supports transforming production, and the idea is really to transform bean production from subsistence to profitable, commercial enterprises. The kind of elements we are talking about. How do we stimulate investment as, for example, seed, credit, finance, and processing? And how do we enhance capacity of the producers, in most cases who are smallholder farmers, to respond to market demands and effectively participate in the market? Now, we've noted, and I'm just giving a small example here, that actually bean is a traded commodity, both regionally, nationally, and internationally. This is just a case showing a few examples of where the movement of beans in terms of tons and captured from both the formal and informal channels. But the point I'm trying to say that based on this, we've tried to define how can we support working with the communities and farmers to really enhance and build this as an economic opportunity for the producers who need to benefit. Now, we are using the name corridor. And the idea here is really to facilitate a word which I would like to emphasize, coordination. How do we overcome coordination failures in investment? And then how do we take advantage of the issue that you've raised here, agglomeration or the grouping and some of the spillovers effect, to really boost trade and productivity? How do we help integrate smallholder farmers in national, regional, and international market? And then how do we support areas of economic intensification characterized with the flows of production of beans to some of the different destinations? Now, having based on this, we have all defined that for beans, we are approaching it from defining some key bean areas rather than looking at it on country level. Now, we consider bean trade and economic growth in targeted regions and thinking how we can support commercialization of small-holder bean producers, and in an effort to try to increase the volumes of bean produced and traded, and increase the use of inputs that increase this productivity and allow farmers to, generate profits. And also increasing the opportunity of linking both private and public sector because of the different elements they contribute, and also to enable investment which are also linked to what research products are generated. Now, because of that, we've defined a number of bean corridors where we observe a lot of trade and flows of bean across the region. And because I showed you where we operate, we have defined about 8 bean corridors. These are really areas characterized by the flow and the trade of beans from some regions. For example, in East Africa, from Uganda to Kenya, from Tanzania to Kenya, or from Tanzania to Central Africa or to Southern Africa, because of the criteria that I just mentioned earlier. Now, if you look closely here, you even see the real flow, some which are both ways, and also defined by the number of products which are in demand and sold in this region. Now, basing on that, then the question is, how do we work with the different actors who are involved in this, both from research up to end users, on to facilitate and enhance the economic effort and the flow and commercialization of the bean, this crop. So we've kind of defined the stages of doing this, identifying the key bean products, which are those products which are demanded, which form the drivers of the process, identifying and engaging the actors, the lead farms and the market, and from the market end users who demand these products either for national, regional, or international market, and establishing the linkages between producers and the key actors, or even organizing those producers to be the lead farm or the entities that can either export or trade on these products, and then explore the priorities of the actors involved, and then define, because we realize that just trading requires some other support from both the private sector, the services from the private sector like inputs and the suppliers, but also from the public sector who provide things like extension, possibly seed, and also provide other other services. But key is what really we see, that there is requirement of communication. You want to have communication system which links the different stakeholders in the system, particularly to support the different actors involved. Here you see a model where you see producers and some of the marketers, but then you see that on one hand you require the services of the public sector, which may include foundation, the extension services or policy, and on the other hand you require commercial or private sector input so that the whole system can function. So the actors are more than or are key in the key actors who are involved, who can make this process succeed. This is also a similar one where you may have what we call the lead actor, and the teams that support the aggregation, which we've just talked earlier, and some of the other components that contribute in, like technologies, like aspects of policy, like act of other services, and then the support which is given by both public and private. An example that we've observed is yes, I'm summing up, is in Ethiopia, where we have had a number of actors, and in these actors, which are the similar actors, defining some of the key actors and working with aggregation of unions and farmers, and research, and both support from some elements of the private sector, but largely from the public sector, to have a product called the white pea bean for export in that country. Now, if you look here, you see that over the last, since 2006, last 10 years, you've had a steady increase of production and export of that commodity that has generated really an increase in revenue and also benefits to the farmer. But at the end of the day, in all this, and I think this has been raised in the discussion we've had, there are a couple of challenges. And some of these challenges is that corridors or these platforms are about scaling up innovations. Sometimes can be an expensive business. As Wally said, the key facilitation is important before you get to self-sustaining models. Private sector involvement and actually leadership is key. But sometimes these aspects are unfamiliar with the other actors of the platform, and developing this understanding is important. Policy support is key, and I would say one of the challenge when you deal with so many actors is that how do we facilitate coordination and facilitation of partners and platform is an element that is of interest and an aspect that really needs to be discussed and agreed on how that can be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter, Agnes. Agnes, can you, 10 minutes, please? I know. Over by 4 minutes.
Good afternoon. As given, my name is Agnes Mwangombe, and this presentation is joint with my colleagues here, Florence Olbayo and Daniel Osonga. Now, this program, Seed Enterprise Management Institute, or as we call it in brief, SEMIS, has been running for the last 6 years. It's a partnership program with other people, CIMIT, specifically CIMIT Zimbabwe, Iowa State University, led by University of Nairobi, and is funded by AGRA. We have other partners in this program, and in there we have added, there is CALRO, that's Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization. We also have consultants who back us up on this program. The key objective for this.
You have cards? Can you give me some cards?
We all keep talking about the challenges of food and nutrition security, and we tie it always to the technologies which we say the researchers develop, and they are always somewhere after we publish, we get our promotions, that is it. So they are somewhere on the shelf. So this particular program is to see how we can mobilize seed, high-yielding quality seed from the breeders to get into the private sector who are the intermediary to the farmers, so that the farmers can access the high-quality seed in there. So we presented this idea, and AGRA supported us, and we came up with that. And so that is the partnership arrangement which I've already mentioned. CIMIT, the consultants, University of Nairobi, Iowa State University in US, and Calro. We've been operating in what I would call AGRA countries, or where AGRA operates. So far, we have covered around 21 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, both English-speaking countries as well as Francophone countries in Africa. We've had phase 1, which started in 2010 up to 2012, or 2013 thereafter, and then we moved to phase 2, which is ending around this 2016, but we've just had a no-cost extension to 2017 because there are a few other activities which we haven't covered. Now we came around with, we looked at what are the courses that the small seed companies will require to give them capacity to be able to mobilize the seeds from the breeder's side. The short course modules we developed is seed production, seed drying, processing and storage, seed marketing, seed business management, seed quality assurance, and seed enterprise. And we recently added another course on seed production as associated with crop pests. And then we brought in another course which we call National Plant Protection Organization Regulatory Frameworks, so that the seed industry can understand that these are some of the key players who are facilitators to rolling out the seed. Then University of Nairobi has also developed some long-term training programs at master's level, which again, AGRA has been very gracious to support us. In there we have given is one of the, during the training sessions we have. So far, what have we achieved? Under phase 1, we were able to train 504 personnel right from the countries I've mentioned. In the current phase, we have done 362, and in total we have managed to train about 866 personnel from the different seed companies, small seed companies in sub-Saharan Africa. That is showing the participants by country. Then also, by country as trained. So those are the participating countries. The program doesn't identify the participants, but we depend on AGRA to help us identify the trainees, because the trainees are coming from small companies, startup companies where they have received some grants, small grant to startup grants to start the seed companies. From there we give them capacity. They move to the level of where some of them are at 10,000 kg seed. They get into another club where they show sustainability, and they get now into soft loan system, again managed by AGRA, where now they are able to now make business. And we have seen tremendous growth from these companies. One of the activities which was included in the funding was for University of Nairobi to establish a center for training with facilities where we have a full-fledged factory, which is processing seed, and we have laboratories for quality assessments, And these were modeled around Iowa State University, but for those of you who have been to Iowa State University, they are not that high. It's what we can manage within our area. Phase 2, I had already given the number of people we have trained across, and the countries are represented right across the region. This program emphasizes greatly on experiential learning. So our coursework, 60% is practical or field or hands-on, and very little talking in the classroom. It lasts 6 days in a week. You can't keep away these people for too long. But at the same time, they have an opportunity. We do a back-to-back training so that companies which want to release someone to be with us for 2 weeks can be able to benefit for 2 courses before they return to their country. We visit, or rather we get out to the other seed companies which are doing seed processing, and I would like to acknowledge the support we receive from other seed companies which are not worried about competition, but they share the facilities with us so that we can train the other seed players. This is our factory at the University of Nairobi. It's already fully functional. We are processing seed, and at the moment some of the startup companies within Kenya, they can use our facility at a minimal cost by signing some annual contracts with the university, and this has been very supportive. We also, as I've said, we also received a grant to put up some laboratory space, and this is now complete. We are at the level where we are equipping the laboratory. One of the key items which comes through when we have been dealing with the seed companies is seed companies all over Africa indicate that foundation of breeders' seed availability and access is a major contribution to seed production in the continent. So the fact that when they don't have access to this seed or accessing it, it has been a major, major challenge to them to getting into the machinery. So one of the components as researchers in the University of Nairobi, we also are producing breeder or foundation seed. Specifically, we are doing a lot on beans, and we have done that and managed to supply that to the industry. Now recently, University of Nairobi, we also participate in various shows. And so when you are here, visit our stand at the exhibition in there for these short courses. Now recently, this program, as I indicated, we also trained Francophone speaking, people from Francophone countries. But let's not forget there is usually a challenge. Yes, there is usually a challenge on communication. So what another program, sub-program which has come, funded by USAID, to see how SEMI's courses can be devolved to French-speaking countries. So about 2 weeks ago or so, we were in Senegal training trainers so that they can start training the French-speaking people in West Africa. And the target country for this particular program under USAID is Senegal, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And the courses which we are devolving to West Africa are 4, as listed above. They were not interested in the 7 we are doing in Africa. So this was our TOT in West Africa, where we have managed to download some of this knowledge to our colleagues in West Africa, and we are going to be backing them up in the behind the scenes. You can visit our website, semis-africa.org. We are online. And at the end of it, we are from the university. Certification is very important, and I think for any of the people. So we usually end up doing a certification program, and this program has received a lot of support from all the 3 presidents of AGRA, the first one, the second, and even the current president. This is certification program, and it goes on, and thank you very much.